Hello, everyone. Today, we have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Nachi, who is the co founder of Bridgely. Nachi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Harris. Thanks so much for having me on the podcast and looking forward to having a good discussion with you guys today.
Absolutely. I've been really excited for this one. I'm really excited to dive into your background, talk all things business, and hopefully learn a thing or two. So, without further ado, shall we make a start?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So, Nachi, if you can take us back to the early days of your career, perhaps where the journey all started, tell us about the younger stages of your career and the journey and how you got to the position you're in today.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. My journey started, I think, same as a lot of other people, which is by accident. I knew I wanted to make money. I knew that I was good with numbers, but I didn't really know what else that meant. I had a university degree from a good university in Canada. I studied economics, but I didn't really love it. So I started selling financial services products in Canada for a large financial institution. Through that, I realized that not a lot of people are going to trust a 21-year-old with their money. Instead, I decided to learn something that was really challenging and difficult to learn, that was technically rigorous, and know it better than anyone else so that I could use that to my advantage. Where, at the very least, if someone is unable to trust my age, they're able to trust my knowledge. So I learned this thing called employee benefits, which in Canada at the time, extremely complex, nuanced, technically very challenging, and there aren't a whole lot of courses that you can take to understand what that looks like. So I had to teach it to myself. And along the way, I realized that I was pretty good at selling things. So I was able to combine the two and sell a whole bunch of benefits to a bunch of business owners and do a really good job for them. After a few years of doing that, I sold my business and did that again and sold my business again.
Amazing.
Um, and following that, I think, like a lot of people, or at least I hope like a lot of people, I fell in love and decided that I wanted to take some time and do something that was a little bit less stressful, focus on growing a family. So I got married and I took some time off essentially. And when I was ready to come back in, I started to work for an insurance company, which at that time, large insurance company in Canada, at a fairly senior position. But the tech space in Canada was just starting to get really, really popular. And there was a ton of innovation all over the place in the benefits realm. The idea was, let's take an old antiquated industry, uh, create some thoughtful, mindful technology, blend them together and make a go of it. And there was a company called League, which I think I still credit for the bulk of my experience. League was a tech company funded really, really well. I joined as their 56th or 57th employee, I forget. And I ran their entire account management team. And I was working with some really large organizations around the world and managing their programs, not just in Canada, but in hundreds of jurisdictions around the world. And that to me was fascinating. It took my need for complex and poured gasoline on it, which I thought was amazing. I then decided, after a few years, decided to dabble into the tech space, which now became a bit of a passion of mine. And I was working for a telehealth company named Dialogue in Canada, which started off before the pandemic as trying to convince a whole bunch of people in Canada that have free healthcare that they also need access to a doctor in their pocket, which can be quite challenging. And I think
Mhm.
the timing worked out. And fast forward 12 months, I had helped them get telehealth into the pocket of 8 million Canadians in 12 months, which I was really proud of, which was exciting. After that, I decided to go back to being a good old fashioned benefits broker with some technology. So I ran revenue for a small brokerage firm that had some really cool proprietary tech that was making a difference, and grew them from about a million top line revenue to 135 million top line revenue and an
Wow.
EBITDA of about 36 million. So a very profitable business. And it's now one of the largest brokerage firms in the country. Realized through that journey, though, it was a 3-year journey, that I found the Canadian landscape to be too simple for what I was looking to do. I wanted to have a larger impact. So I started Bridgely, and Bridgely essentially is a company with our scope is essentially we provide benefits and pensions, guidance and consulting advice to businesses, small, medium, large, in any country in the world. And that's really where the passion is for me. So we started, me and my co-founder Andrew, we started the company 2 years ago. We've been really fortunate where we haven't had to raise any private equity, we haven't had to take on any debt, we haven't had to get any kind of external investment. We've bootstrapped the business, and again, we've been very fortunate that the company has been profitable since day one as well, and we've been able to scale that company today.
Amazing, amazing. What a story. Now, what part of the journey do you look back on and think that's where you learned the most? What was perhaps the most critical point of your journey that was make or break, but you pulled through? And what do you think got you through that point to make you the entrepreneur and businessman you are today?
Yeah, I think there's two key parts because they taught me two very different things. I think the first one was my experience at League. It revealed to me within myself that I have a need or a passion for something.
Yeah.
I think prior to that, I just wasn't clear on what my true passion was, and I feel really lucky to have been forced into a high pressure situation that was scaling really fast. The company grew from 50 employees to 500 employees in 6 months,
Wow.
right? It's a pressure cooker environment. And I learned that I love something. And I think before that, I didn't really know what I loved. The second experience is definitely when I grew that brokerage firm from being a small local kind of firm to a large national powerhouse. I learned how to run a business in that. I think that was, and I learned that how much you know about the product that you're selling or the service you're providing is different from how do you operate, run, and scale a business when you are controlling almost all of the levers and have that oversight. It was probably my first leadership position. And within 12 months, I had 6 senior vice presidents reporting into me with teams that were generating $5 million of EBITDA each in new business, and being able to control the volume as well as the account management and retention side, as well as all of the operational things that go into that, was it mind blowing what it taught me.
Amazing, amazing. And in terms of your career, if you look back on it, what was the highlight? What point did you say, look, that was the period of the journey which you enjoyed the most? Obviously there's
Mhm.
the lows and the pains and struggles, but what point were you the most proud of? What happened and you still remember it at this point now, years later, as a highlight? What would you say?
I think it was the first time I sold my business. I think that was really special. I didn't think that 20-year-olds could do that. Um, that was really, really special. I didn't buy myself a fancy sports car. I decided to save the money, and it's helped. But that was a special feeling. But I think I had my another really special moment that I don't think I'm ever going to forget for the rest of my life. That was having the realization that I have the financial independence and freedom to start a company that can be profitable. So it's not for charity without needing to take anything from anybody else.
Wow.
That was a truly impactful moment that happened when we started Bridgelight.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, with that, actually, we can nicely come on to the next topic, which is industry trends. So, what
Mhm.
are some trends that you're seeing within the industry, within the market, within small, medium, large businesses? How do you think those trends and shifts are going to pan out over the next few months and years to come? And how could
Mhm.
businesses navigate this change? There's always something new out, there's always something coming out, something being released or change coming. So, how can businesses navigate this in your experience?
It's a lot of people don't realize this, so it's a great question. But a lot of people don't realize this, that whenever you speak to anyone in your network that's in the benefits space, it's actually they have a wonderful finger on the pulse of all things human resources or HR, which in turn has a really good finger on the pulse of how businesses are growing and changing around the world. Right. So it's a great question. I think the biggest trend, and I would imagine this is not a surprise to many, is the world has gotten much smaller since the pandemic
Yeah.
around the world, anywhere you go. Business owners from small businesses, medium businesses, and large enterprises are looking to hire the best talent for the lowest cost, regardless of location. What they really are looking for is the ability to communicate in a certain language and with competency in that role. And that's forcing a lot of younger companies and startups to get the best developers they can in Brazil or in Nairobi, for example. It's not offshoring, they're not outsourcing it, but they are full time employees just happening in another country because it's so much more effective from a cost perspective. What that's forcing the world to do, and I think a lot of governments to do from a regulatory perspective, is start to figure out how do we allow a company that is headquartered in, say, the United Kingdom to operate or have a part of their operations in another country, but still figure out how the revenue is reconciled in the United Kingdom. And that's a complex journey. Um, and I think it's forcing a bunch of regulatory environments to figure that out really, really fast. I also think that after the pandemic, because of this ability to hire anyone wherever you want, it's also forced humankind to embark on a technological advancement journey that happened much faster without it, which is how do I get payroll set up in a different country? How do I hire the employee? What's my liability as a business owner if something goes wrong? These are the things that I think a lot of young business owners and small business owners think about. It's the minutia, it's the weeds, and they have to spend their time doing that. Whereas when I take a big step back, I think we're finding that 1 in 3 companies out of the US, for example, are either they already have more than 20% of their employees outside of the US, or are considering it in the next 12 months. We're looking at companies in all across Europe, just generally are looking to hire employees in Southeast Asia. It's becoming a lot more common than we've ever seen before. We're seeing jurisdictions like Philippines and Cambodia becoming hotspots for hiring really good English speaking talent, not just for their junior jobs, but for senior roles as well, at a fraction of the price point. And what that's forcing a lot of, again, businesses, small, medium, large, to think about is how do I manage this chaos? Because it can get really chaotic really, really fast.
Absolutely. Amazing. Very well said. Very well said. Now, another trend I guess I wanted to get your thoughts on is something that's blown up the last 10, 15 years, and it's only going to get even bigger, is social media. Power of
Mhm.
social media, power of online presence, the power of being digital and actually being able to present yourself, where perhaps a few years ago that was quite distant. And it comes nicely onto your point about how the world has become so much smaller. And I think social media has a massive hand in that. So what are your thoughts on that? What are some ways social media has actually benefited yourself
Mhm.
in your career? And what are some pitfalls that businesses need to know about to avoid getting trapped? Where do you sit on
Yeah.
that scale there?
It's a loaded question that you asked, but I'll take a stab at it. So, social media has been, I think something happened over the last 7 or 8 years where the main form of information, the main method or form of information that humans under the age of, let's call it 70 or even 65, have started to consume is not the news. It's not the newspaper. It's not the news website. It's social media content. If you talk to anyone that's under the age of 25 today, when they don't Google things anymore, they search for it on a social media platform, right?
Yep.
And I'm in my mid to late 30s, and I've been, again, very privileged and lucky to see this shift happen. What's important, I think, to highlight here is social media plays an extremely important role in allowing a business of any size to tell the story that they want to tell to the people that they want to tell it to. But if you think about that statement, there's two really important things that a business owner needs to know, which is what is that story and who do you want to tell it to? And I think a lot of business owners don't have the right answer before they embark on that journey of social media marketing and all of the things that go into it. So, saying, as a great example I like to give is, we'll use Bridgely. Our target market is every single business that has an employee outside of their home country. That's our target market. So really broad. The reality is that's a little too broad. If you were to start to pay for ad space to target every single company with employees outside of their home country, it would be a pretty expensive bill, right? And our KPI metrics on conversion rates would be quite dismal. But we had to do a lot of soul searching and digging to understand who is our target client. And we figured out that actually our target client is not a company that has 1,000 employees spread out across 10 countries with a 100-person HR team or a 20-person HR team, even. Actually, our target market is, I don't really care how many employees you have. I don't even care how many countries you have. What I really care about, though, is how large is your HR team? because the smaller your HR team is, the higher the market. So when we do social media marketing and campaigning, we're targeting companies that have a small HR team,
Got it.
that have employees outside of it. And that's hyper specific. The number of targets is much more limited than saying I want to talk to every company under the sun that has employees outside of their home country. So that's the type of soul searching that I think has been extremely profitable for us. I also think that I has played a massive role in changing the way business owners that are born in the mid 80s to the mid 90s have thought about this. If you're a business owner born between 1985 and 1995, things started out with this whole thing called search engine optimization, and you had to have the right keywords, keyword strategy. It's gone. Like SEO plays no role in um, how people search for things today,
Yeah.
right? It has completely changed the name of the game of that. The other thing that AI has done that I think is interesting and it's relevant to content strategy is it used to mean hundreds of hours for either a team of people or a person to create meaningful content. It took time, effort, energy to edit it, create it, think of it, try all of that. Now it doesn't. It takes a couple hours. That means that the price point for engaging with social media marketing has dropped. It's gotten a whole lot cheaper. So if anyone that's listening is a bit on the fence to think about, is it worth it? Is it not worth it to do some social media marketing? The price point has been driven down to the point where it's worth taking a small risk with. See what happens. And as long as you know exactly who your target audience is very specifically, and you know how to tell your story well, you should see significant gains and results on that.
Amazing, amazing. Very authentic. Now, if we can come on to the business, right? Really deep dive into the business. What is some areas of the business that are working really, really well? You're going from strength to strength. It could be anywhere within the operation, sales, marketing, customers, delivery. And what are some areas of the business that you're having some challenges, some problems, some, teething issues that perhaps you're looking to overcome them? And how would you perhaps advise people in a similar position that the best practice to go about these certain hurdles within growing a business at your scale?
Yeah. So, Grizzly today is, I consider us to be in our infancy a little bit. We're about £1 million in revenue. So not small, but also not very large. We've only been around a couple years. So with that said, I think our sales engine has been something that I'm very proud of. We've done really good, but I'm also not surprised. It's the background that I have. We have the in-house expertise to not sell, but create an engine that sells for you so that you don't need to do it yourself every day. I think I'm also fortunate that the industry that we have chosen to have Bridgely engage in is a heavy knowledge-based industry. So success or delivery of our service is predicated on the quality of the knowledge and the method of delivering said knowledge. And we're fortunate to have staff that does that as well, which is great. I think the biggest hurdle has been trying to solve a problem in a way that allows us to do it right the first time. And I'll explain what I mean by that for a
Yeah,
moment. A lot of companies at a similar stage to where we are, we figured out product market fit, we figured out our price point, we know our competitors, we know what our story is. All of these boxes have been checked. And I think a lot of people that I know, friends that I know that are business owners at a similar stage, they feel the need to scale the business and go 3x, 4x, 5x. They've read all the books, they've listened to all the podcasts, and all of the messaging is scale. Solve a problem as if you could do it 100 times over, with 10% of the effort, kind of thing, right? And as beautiful as that mission is, it's extremely hard because either you've got to take money from someone to
yeah,
do that, right? And when you take money from someone or when you take anything from anybody, there's an expectation. And that applies in our interpersonal lives and our business lives as well.
yeah.
And even if the expectations align on day one, they don't align on day 25 or day 50 or day 100, right? And it's a full-time job just managing those expectations. It's really, really hard. So a big challenge for us was we want to scale, but we don't want to owe anything to anybody. We don't want to have external expectations. We're lucky that the business is profitable today, but how do we make this into a 500-person organization with offices, physical locations in 100 countries around the world. How do you do that? And we've had to really think out of the box with making the amount of time we spend delivering our service to our clients more efficient. I don't mean less time. I mean improve the quality of delivery so that we're not worried about revenue retention, which means when we're doing our forecasting, we know with a high degree of certainty that that revenue is going to stay with us the following year. And that allows us to really make good tactical decisions. The second thing that has been really challenging that's related to this really is creating internal processes to do something that can scale, that is hyper specific to the team that you have. Because I think a lot of business owners forget this is just because there's a process that exists in some manual somewhere doesn't mean that it applies to your business. The humans that you have that are helping you run your business are unique, and they have unique skill sets with at varying degrees, and your process needs to work for them. But the problem is, if you want to scale, those processes need to work for anyone you hire in the future. So that's been a really big challenge, is figuring out the right balance between processes that work today and processes that will help us grow and scale, because you have to change your employees' mindset on how to approach solving a problem or overcoming a hurdle. And I think the last one has been talent. And I'm not sure if I'm the only one facing that challenge, and I'd love to hear from the community if I'm the only one, but it has been really hard to find people that can punch above their weight class. We're in a day and age today where you went to school is a little bit less relevant. The companies you worked at is a little bit less relevant as well. It's really about the projects that you did, the work that you did, the innovation that you brought. And that's really hard to suss out in a traditional interview process. So we're torn between finding a more in-depth interview process at the cost of not hiring quickly. And that's been a really difficult challenge to overcome for us. And I don't have a good solution for that last one right now. I'm in the thick of it, trying to figure out how do I know whether someone is truly innovative in 45 minutes? Because the reality is, as a business owner, that's all the time I've got to make a decision here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if we can now, coming on to the last part, Nachi, is to talk about the future, right? What does the
Mhm.
future look like for yourself? Perhaps at a personal level, what are some personal aspirations that you've set out? And then we talk business. What does the business
Yeah.
want to look like in the next 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, 5 years? What are some aspirations you and your business partner have got on your vision board that you look at every morning and say, this is what we're going to achieve?
Yeah. On the personal side, we had our first child 10 months ago. So on the
Amazing.
personal side, I am really looking forward to seeing my 10-month-old daughter start to have a conversation with me. I think I'm just excited to have a silly childish conversation with my first daughter. So that's the personal side. I think it's a big one. Also on the personal side is, and this is probably a little too aspirational, is I want to find the right definition of work-life balance for me. That's something that I aspire to. I don't think that conventional forms of work these many hours, etc., apply when you're a business owner. I think your mind is always going to think about your business no matter what. But I want to find a way to create my own definition of what a balance between maintaining my sanity and spending my effort and focus on my energy and also my family. I think so that's something that I aspire to on the personal side over the next 12 months. From a business perspective, again, this is advice that I would really give to anyone is if you do have a business partner or you have someone within your company that you rely on to be your right hand person or human, try your best to find someone that doesn't always think the way you think. Let them challenge you and push you. Um, it's important. You don't want a yes person on your side. So I'm really lucky, I think fortunate to have found someone in my co-founder that understands how to push and challenge without being offensive in a really helpful way. And what that's resulted in is a crystal clear vision of what the next 12, 24, 36 look like for us. In 12 months, we want to open up an office in another country, a physical office with humans in there that are perfectly acclimated to the environment in that local jurisdiction. And that's a gargantuan task. That's a really immediate KPI. From a revenue perspective, we want to get to the 2.5 million pound mark. I think that's really where we're setting our targets on. Over 24 months, Andrew and I are aspiring to get out of the day to day. We do not want to be involved with the day-to-day at all. It's something that we don't want to be on a customer call. We don't want to be on a team call where we're talking to the frontline staff to kind of figure out the minutia of what's going on every day, a huddle or anything like that. We want to be dealing with people that are leading those teams, and we want to scale to that point. And over 3 years, I think that's when we would decide to go fundraising.
Got it.
Those are, I think, the big business milestones. From an operational perspective, we are getting ready to gear up for a pretty significant payroll spend. That's going to come with a lot of stress. And my co-founder said, we're going to have to work on, and this is going to sound strange, I think, to a lot of people, is I think as a business owner, you're so used to controlling everything. We're going to need to learn how to let go and let our teams execute for us. And that sounds like it's business, but really it's a very personal journey. Is to relinquish control of something that you built and learn how to do. I joke about this, but I'm not really joking, which is the more senior you get or the more success you see in your career, whether that's working for someone else as an employee or as a business owner, it doesn't matter. Every time you climb up your own ladder that you've created for yourself, you have a different limb that's tied behind your back, but you're expected to deliver the same amount of results.
Yeah.
So early on, you were a salesperson, you were on the phones, you were the one sending the email, you were the one talking to the prospect. When you're leading a sales team, you're teaching someone else to do that, but you're responsible for a number. When you're leading multiple revenue teams, you're responsible for well-being and performance, but you're 2 steps removed from how much can be sold, what is being said, is the quality okay? Like these are things that you just can't control. You have to find a way to do it. And when you start to scale a business, you have so many limbs that are tied behind your back that you have no direct control over. You can't touch it, you can't feel it. But at the end of the day, you're responsible. And that to me is the beauty of being an entrepreneur is how do you solve that problem? It's tricky.
Very well said. Very well said. And just to wrap up on there, then actually, what is the biggest piece of advice you've received from a mentor or somebody, or perhaps the biggest lesson you've learned in your journey of entrepreneurship that someone listening today might hear it and it might change their life or the trajectory of their business? What would you say to that one piece of advice?
It's going to sound like two things, but they're not. It's the same thing, which is if it's too good to be true, it is. And as a business owner, what that categorically means is read every single contract that you sign. It could be your license for Zoom. It could be anything minor. Read it, understand it. And normally you'll be fine, but there will be times where it is too good to be true. You took it and you will pay the price for it later. So, as silly as it sounds, as time wasting as it sounds, if you are signing an agreement, big or small, for the business, read it and understand it. You don't need to say yes or no. Just take the time to understand it really, really well.
Amazing. Wow. See, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed myself. Thank you for an amazing podcast episode. I'm sure everyone watching has found a lot of value and really enjoyed learning a lot more about yourself. So massive thank you. For me and everyone watching, massive, massive thank you. Is there any closing comments, perhaps team members, potential clients, and people, anyone watching, any closing comments that you'd like to share before we do finish up?
Yeah, I would say, thanks for having me here, Harris. It's been a pleasure. And for the broader community, don't be scared to ask for help if you need it. If you're thinking it, there's definitely 5 other people that have solved that problem and they've done it really well. We are victims of not asking as entrepreneurs. All of us are victims of that. Fight yourself and do it. But outside of that, this has been a wonderful opportunity and journey. So thank you, Harris. And have a wonderful day, everybody else.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks for everyone who's tuned in today. Catch everyone next time. Bye-bye.